Very now. Hot chocolate ready. Tom, how are you?
I'm good. After the last few months, I'm definitely in a much happier state of mind, and everything's kind of, back to normal how it was before the injury.
Obviously, you're here today with us to talk about obviously how things have gone since the said injury in December. Obviously, flashing back to that day, what do you remember of what happened?
Well, my head was mainly in the game at the time. It was obviously within the first 10 minutes we started well. I was definitely well up for the game, and I was, so I was throwing myself into tackles, which probably was the reason why. And I remember putting Garbutt through on goal, and I remember us taking the lead, and we were keeping our heads, and then all of a sudden, I kind of got a bit excited, threw myself into the tackle, and felt straight away, and I knew something bad had happened, and it was just the end of the day for me, and I was just distraught from like the second it happened.
Obviously, at that point, it was a game, like you said, it's 10 minutes into the game, things are going well, the team's playing good, and an incident that no one ever wants to see, amateur or professional, happens, and myself being on the sideline and with the rest of the lads and those on the pitch, it's an incident that obviously I'm sure you can vouch for more than anyone else, but it is something that does affect you massively and just change your life.
Yeah, I mean obviously it's a massive physical change, because at the moment I got out of hospital it was quite hard to deal with the fact that I couldn't make a cup of tea, and the first time I did I was like, I can't carry this at the night. It really kind of like, it gets you mentally when a lot of the things you take for granted are kind of taken away. So the comeback mentally was definitely harder than coming back physically, because I knew I'd always do that, because I knew I was motivated enough to stay in the gym and stay active. But mentally, coping with it in the first 2-3 months was definitely the hardest part.
Obviously, throwing it back to the actual incident itself, for those that aren't aware or maybe forgotten out of their minds, do you mind just telling people what happened and the extent of the injury that you suffered?
Yeah, no, I don't mind at all. It was obviously a double leg break, both kind of completely separated from each other, and I knew from the second that it happened that it wasn't like just something simple. I knew that it was going to be quite a big surgery that I'd have to go through, where they've obviously put the rod straight down my shin, and I've had to work on putting as much weight through it so the bones can start growing back together again. You can't really describe the pain or kind of expect it until it happens to you, because it's nothing like I really ever imagined. I thought the shock would take over and maybe like you'd pass out or something, but it's something you can't imagine. You have to kind of go through it to understand the level of pain you can actually kind of go through.
Like I say, obviously it's something that honestly you only understand and be able to appreciate once, and God forbid nobody does, but if they went through themselves. Obviously, watching the footage back, and obviously we've got the footage available to us, I think for me being able to touchline the first big thing, that obviously I saw the tackle itself, but I think the moment that sticks with everyone that was there is your scream of just pure agony. And you obviously laid there for quite a long time waiting for the ambulance and the emergency service to arrive. What was that period of time like for yourself?
The scream wasn't pain, I don't think, because the first few seconds it wasn't painful. The scream was because I knew how bad it was, and everything was just flashing through my mind, like, what am I not going to be able to do? How long is it going to take? Like, with me being such an active person in general, I was just like, I'm going to lose all that time I've put into, spending in the gym and trying to make myself a better person, and I'm going to have to do all that again. But it was, trying to keep the tears back. It wasn't tears of pain, it was just tears of knowing what I was going to have to kind of go through and what I was going to lose in the process.
Obviously, when the paramedics eventually arrived and everything, obviously a couple of lads from the team and coaching staff went for your hospital. How long did you spend in the hospital?
well, obviously it wasn't a good start when the ambulance took 2 hours, but I was in the hospital for about 10 days before the operation, and then it took another 9 days for them to discharge me. So I was in there from like 3rd of September, the 3rd of December when it happened, all the way through to like the 22nd, which was not easy for me dealing with it around Christmas, because it was supposed to be such a exciting time, and I never really got to experience it, and I'd lost all that like time with my family at home, and it's just, we never really got to have a proper Christmas. But you know, it's all in the past now, and everything's looking up.
Touching more briefly on what you just said, what was it like those 19, 20 days that you spent in hospital before and after the operation?
And obviously, like the first few days, obviously it was expected. I knew I was going to be there for a little bit, and it was easy because I had everybody's support was there. Everybody was visiting me. But the longer it went on, and I kept getting bumped off the operations list, it was really quite hard to deal with it, because I just wanted to get out, and I wanted my life to kind of resume. I wanted to be able to start my road to recovery, and definitely being in there for the 19, 20 days, at the end I was really in a bad place, and obviously the nurses and they could see that, and they would try to tell me to take antidepressants and stuff, but I thought it was pretty fair enough that I was in a bad way, like by the time I got out, like mentally.
Obviously during that time you were in hospital, how much did it mean to you? Obviously your mum came down from Scotland to spend time with you, but how much did it mean to you to have the guys from the team and friends and such come and see you day in, day out while you were there?
Yeah, obviously I wouldn't have been able to do it without them, because like thinking all those hours in the hospital when I literally had nothing to do, no one to speak to, and just the fact that the pain was stopping me sleeping as well, was just like I wasn't able to sleep for like 3 months straight. Like it's nothing you can really imagine. And so the people that came to see me were obviously the people that they got me through. I would have been in such a worse mental state if I didn't have them to come in and make me smile every day. And definitely the biggest credit does go to my mum, because she sat with me for like 12 hours a day for 20 days straight and spent all that money to come down. And I definitely wouldn't have been able to get through it without her.
I've got a picture here, Tom, I should throw up and show you. I'm sure we have to get on the screen, or people get that themselves, and just talk us through this picture and how you felt and everything at this moment.
Definitely. That day when, like, obviously I was expecting people to come in and visit me, but when I was kind of presented with that, like the shirt, that kind of, it did make me quite, like, it made me well up, because I realised just how many people that cared about me and were willing to come and see me and just try and make me smile again. And it was just realising how much of a close group of friends we do have. Like it was really quite an emotional day, and I was so thankful that everybody was there to see it.
Yeah, I think big thanks have got to go to Leon, who's idea in the first place, but obviously everyone at the club and everyone else for chipping in and helping out with that. Talk to us about life after the hospital, so back home in Scotland and things over Christmas.
See, over Christmas it wasn't easy. I was obviously having to take silly amounts of painkillers from morning to the evening just to kind of like deal with it. And for me, I hated having to, like, all I could do was sit on the sofa, watch TV really, and I had to, like, my mum would have to make all my meals, everything for me, and it was like not being able to get in the shower, like you just didn't feel like you were human really, and like not just everything you take for granted I couldn't do. For about 2 weeks I hadn't stepped out of the house, and when I did it was just because I needed to go for a hospital appointment or to see a physio. So it was like I didn't really have a life other than the pain and trying to reduce it and trying to like just make things a little bit more normal again. And that was why I was so desperate to get back to Manchester in January, even if I probably wasn't ready when I got back, but I needed to kind of force it and just force myself back into regular life to kind of take my mind away from it.
Obviously, how much more difficult do you think this whole process would have been if you didn't have the guys on the team and your friends, and especially your mum and your family there with you?
I mean, I did see like people in the hospital. There were homeless people and stuff that had broken bones and were in there, and like I can't imagine what the recovery would be like for them, especially if they don't have the people around them or the home to go back to. So it's definitely a big part of the recovery, both physically and mentally, were because of the people around me. It would have been really, really easy for me to just mope about and not try to get back on my feet as quickly as I did. But just knowing that I had the support of everybody and just everyone trying to make me smile on a daily basis was really managed to keep my motivation high. And I said I'd be back on my feet within the first 8 weeks, and I did it. So I'm quite happy with myself for that.
Obviously, I think it's obviously a big credit to everyone that was helping you out with the process. I think it's obviously a credit to yourself that obviously, like you say, you didn't just mope around and things, but obviously you were determined and willing to get back on 2 feet and get back to, prior injury state as quick as you can. What about life when you came back to Manchester? What about them? Obviously, not being around you all the time, you're back in with your flatmates.
Yeah, it was the first 4 or 5 days I was questioning whether or not I was actually ready to be here and whether I needed to go back home, because it was a big step, like coming off the morphine painkillers and that, and actually being active around the city. Like I did have to force myself to walk long distances to get to uni, and when I was getting back into the flat, it was quite hard to, not kind of break down in tears like with the pain that was going through my leg at the beginning. But about 2-3 weeks of just accepting that it was going to be hard, I came out the other side, and I've not really had a problem in the last 2 months really at all.
Obviously, before the injury, you were a guy who did lots of sports and enjoyed life, everything. Big fan of the gym. How eager after the injury happened, so you got discharged and everything, were you to get back in that routine? How much mindset was it of, I'm not Tom Bygate with an injury, I am just still Tom Bygate?
Yeah. Like the first few days I was in the hospital, the people that came to see me, I said to them, I was complaining about not getting my surgery, because I was not because I cared about the pain or anything, but I was I want to be back in the gym within the next 2-3 days. And the hardest thing for me was watching my body waste away in front of me, because I couldn't move, I couldn't activate anything, and that was the hardest thing. But as hard as it was, I knew that I couldn't take it as an excuse to not do it as soon as I got out. And literally the second day that I was out, I'd ordered weights on Amazon that had gone straight to my house so I could start getting back into a routine again. And obviously the moment I got back to Manchester, I was back in the gym again. So it's just I wanted to be me again, and that was the main thing, because you take so many things for granted at the end of the day. And I'm just a lot more happy now that I can put that chapter behind and be myself again.
Obviously, during your injury and everything, there was a huge outpour of support on social media from people in the team, people at the club, fellow players from the league and fellow teams in the league. Obviously, looking back on that at the time and also retrospectively now, how was that make you feel?
I give huge credit to everyone that was around me, and it does make me feel emotional thinking about everybody that came to visit, put all those messages out on Twitter, Facebook, everything. It's just an amazing feeling to know that you had everybody around you and ready to help, and it's just it's something you can't go through without it. I don't know, I feel a lot closer to everybody because of what happened, and I know that they do as much for me as I do for them.
Obviously, you touched on gym there. How is things in the gym now? See, not at the same as you were before, but are you getting there? Are you gradually getting back?
A lot of the things, in terms of my upper body, I've almost recovered everything. There are some things that, obviously, me having lost a lot of weight, I haven't quite got back there yet. Things like squats, I've only just been able to start doing certain things, because most of it I have to do for functional reasons, because my leg is still, obviously the muscles are still not what they were, they're still quite tight. I've got to try and loosen everything up, and obviously I've still lost feeling in areas in my foot, in my ankle, so it's slow progress, but you know, as long as I'm getting a bit closer to my goal every day, then that makes me happier.
Obviously, it's been 4 months now since the injury. How long were you obviously predicted to be out for and things and things?
With like a double leg break, I was predicted like 8 months, really waiting to probably like get back on my feet in terms of like an active sport level, like. But I think 6 months they were thinking like I could be walking within 6 months properly, but I didn't listen to them at all. I was just like, I'm going to do this as quick as I can, and because the fact that it happened at Christmas, I just felt like I could like lose half of the next year like completely without having done anything, and I wanted to be back on my feet within like by February to actually have a productive year this year. I didn't want to kind of wake up in August, that would be when I start walking again, and all of a sudden the year's gone.
I think that's obviously credit to yourself, obviously that determination to obviously, like you said, within a month or so you're back on your feet and try and get back that old routine. Like I said, 4 months have gone now since the injury. Looking forward towards the next couple of months and obviously the end of 2018, how long do you think it is before you are back at that former price state?
I think there's definitely another 2-3 months of work that needs to go in, certainly for like strength and to get the weight that I lost back. Football wise, I don't know how I will feel mentally, but I get like people keep telling me that you will know whether or not you can. You'll just know, and you'll be able to tell if you're confident enough to do it. Whether or not I go back to 11 side is another thing, but I definitely do want to be back on a pitch at some point, and I'm definitely thinking by September I might be able to do that.
Obviously you mentioned there that 11 side may be a bit too much of a step forward at the minute, but trainings, 5 sides, maybe that's something, a route you consider getting back into the game via?
Yeah, obviously my life has always had football in some capacity, and it would be a shame at the age of 20 to have to retire from that. But so I definitely do want to keep it in my life, and if 5 side's the only way I can do that, like mentally, just because I couldn't put myself through that like situation again. Maybe like physically I could deal with it, but mentally for it to happen twice, I think would be a step too far.
Obviously you just touched on it a lot then, and a lot throughout the interview, but how much do you think the recovery is mentally, and then how much more do you basically think is mental recovery rather than physical recovery?
I think 80% of it is mental, because the people that these things happen to might take an excuse to be like, I can stay on the sofa for 8-9 months of this year and it'll just like you can come back after that. But yeah, it's people put limits on you, and like Zlatan, when he was injured, people put limits on him, and he was just he came back like after 6 months when he was told he was going to be over a year. So it is all about how you approach it mentally and how much determination you have to really get back on your feet, and just you can't take anything in life for granted. So just that's kind of what really did hit with me as soon as it happened, and that was why I wanted to get back on my feet as soon as possible.
As we're approaching the end of the interview now, looking forward 6 months, a year, where do you want to be at, both physically, mentally, and obviously in any other capacity?
Obviously mentally, I'm not in the same place that I was. Things do still bother me about the whole situation, and it has been like tough to keep going every day when you look at yourself and you're not in the peak that you were. But definitely in a year's time I want to be better than I ever was, and I want to be able to look at this and thank be grateful that it happened, because I think my mental state will be a lot stronger because of it, because I've been through it, and you know that if that couldn't stop you, then nothing really can.
For anybody that's watching this, whether they're currently going for something similar now or in the future, what would be your advice to somebody that, first and foremost, obviously suffered an injury like yourself, but also is just dealing with the mental implications of not just an injury, but just day-to-day life?
As far as an injury goes, just don't beat yourself up the way I did, because in hospital I started placing the blame on myself and started just getting it. And when I got out, I was like saying to myself, "Oh, you're not good enough. You're not where you should be." When in reality, I was doing better than that, because I was like obviously not as good as I was before the injury. So my advice is just be patient. Don't get too upset over the whole thing. You will come back. It's just a matter of time, and if you put the work in, you'll definitely get back on your feet. So, and with the mental side, I don't know, I'm maybe not the best person to ask, but just set yourself goals, and every day, if you're getting slightly better at something, then you can be proud of yourself, regardless of what's in the past. You might have done something better then, but as long as you're getting back to where you want to be, if you get there, then you can be happy. But don't sit around and mope and be like, "I will never get there now because of something that's happened."
Obviously, final thing, Tom, what would you like to say to everybody throughout this that's helped you and supported you, show them obviously gratitude and support towards you through this process?
Obviously, I want to say to everybody at Medlock, everybody that's supported me on social media, obviously my family, my friends, everybody, just a massive thank you, to be honest. I know I'm not always the best at showing my gratitude for things, but I am obviously very grateful, and I will always hold everybody quite dear in my heart that did go through this with me. And because without you, I might not even be on my feet at this point. I might still be sat at home, not back at uni, not in my routine. So it's just everybody else that provided me with the strength to have the motivation I do.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thanks.